Thank you for the beautiful singing and chanting about Sri Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita, which kind of sets the mood for Swami's talk on Sri Krishna, the Harmonizer of religious paths. This is Swami Satyamayananda's first visit to St. Louis. He's newly posted to the Vedanta Society of Southern California, less than a year, and we're very happy that he was able to come and visit us. He asked me not to say too much. But I also have to fulfill Swami Chaitananda's expectations, because he'll listen to this after he comes back from India. So I should say that in India, Swami was posted and served at our Advaita Ashram centers, both in Calcutta and Mayavati, for many years. He was posted at Bellarmont for 4 years as one of the teachers in our training center, our monastic training center. And most recently, before being transferred to Southern California, he was in charge of our center in Kanpur. So please welcome Swami. And I'm going to turn the light here on the podium so you can see his notes. Sorry, Swami.
Do you have a clock or something like that? Yeah. What? Do you have water and you have a timer or something like that? Clock, watch. Yeah, you get it. Yeah. I might get carried away.
3 minutes fast.
Geetam Shantam Madhuramapya Singanadan Jagarja Soyam Jata Pratita Purusho Ramakrishna Stvidanim. I was emboldened to chant in Sanskrit when I seen so much of Sanskrit being chanted. This is the well-known hymn written by Swami Vivekananda, harmonizing Rama, Krishna, and Ram Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita, as it means, spoken in the lion roar, yet so sweet and peaceful by Sri Krishna, that very well-known soul has now embodied as Ram Krishna. Thank you very much, Swami Nishpapananda, for the very elaborate introduction. My pranams to him. Also my loving namaskars and best wishes to Nirakarananda. And somehow this place has meant a lot to me. Over the years, I first remember, before I became a monk, I joined the order, I took up a book by Swami Satprakashananda called Methods of Knowledge. And I broke my head over it. I tried it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and gave it up. And years later, I took this book up again, and there it was. It speaks about the 6 ways of how we acquire knowledge. And we in India, we know the basics, but this was so complicated. Why did Satprakashananda make it so complicated? I found out that he had brought in tremendous streams of thought into this one book. And then it struck me, this person is a giant. Oh, yes. And then, of course, his other books were avidly, you can say, rather I'll say gobbled up. It was amazing. And then this very place, I used to see the YouTubes of St. Louis Center, and then this very place, and I can't believe I'm here, standing here. This is the kind of a dream come true, to be in St. Louis, in this place which I had dreamt and thought about, and here I am. It humbles me. And frankly speaking, I was looking forward to come to St. Louis, because a lot of books by Swami Chaitananji we used to read, and there's a Vedanta Society of St. Louis, South Skinker Boulevard, St. Louis. Oh, God, yeah. And this literature, of course, produced from here, opened many doors for me, spiritual doors. And I'm sure it has opened many, many doors for all of us here, because that's the idea of we travel from one dimension to another. We may not know that we are traveling, but when the doors are open for us, by the grace of God, it seems so effortless, and it seems not a journey at all. That is what is spiritual life. In fact, just before coming here, there's a Swami, he was grumbling and complaining, you are now going out there, and all these years I've been struggling with my spiritual life. I don't seem to know what's happening. I looked at him and I said, that is exactly what indicates spiritual life. You are caught unawares. You are carried by that grace. And as Sri Ramakrishna says, when you wake up, if a person is moved along with his bed, a sleeping person, and when that person wakes, he'll discover himself in a new place, herself in a new place. This is exactly what happens. So just hold on to it. And that's what I've been doing, holding on to those ideas that have elevated thousands and thousands and thousands of people over the centuries. We are honoring Sri Krishna. And we know he was a colossus striding down not hundreds of years, thousands of years. He seems to be everywhere. He's a central character in the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata consists of 100,000 verses. It's the longest epic poem. And the Mahabharata itself was an oral tradition written down. And that oral tradition went back a couple of more thousand years. And with Sri Krishna as a central figure, we can understand how these stories, these oral stories, they have kind of merged in the various, you can say, smaller tales. Yes, it's a wonderful. In fact, that was what every religious literature, scripture is about. There was an oral tradition, and then it was written down. In fact, the essential Vedic literature wasn't written down because they thought Yeah, those guys, those scribes will commit some mistakes, and then there we had it. They never depended on the written word. They memorized it. And for more than 4,000 years, there was an oral tradition from the guru to the disciple, and on and on and on. In fact, more than half of the society was actively engaged in preserving this literature. It's the history of our people. It's a history of a race. It's a history of a human soul. How it totters, how it slowly stands up and takes those tottering steps towards the goal. And that had to be protected. So here we have, in this long oral tradition and written tradition, Sri Krishna rather dominating everything. In fact, he seems to be everywhere, in mythology, in theology, in you can say rituals, in doctrines, everywhere. Yeah, you take off Sri Krishna or you take off Rama, you're not left with much. Really. In fact, this personality has embodied all what is best and the greatest in human nature. Not only human nature, divine nature. We know exactly now what God is like. Yes. Well, he was, as a divine child, kind of lovable. And Sri Ramakrishna says, when you first encounter divinity, divinity appears outside with probably like the 8 or 10 hands of the mother Durga, the goddess Durga. Then as you come closer and closer, maybe that goddess will appear with 4 arms. And as you keep on approaching, God will come like this with 2 arms. And even more, as you approach, you will find that deity has become lovable in the form of a child. It's now your duty to protect that deity. All ideas of glory and power have all gone vanished. This is actually the gradation of spiritual life. Nothing else. God, He's created the universe, so what? But I love Him. And we've heard these songs, beautiful songs. How love can unite even disparate things, the small and the very large. So the idea is love Sri Krishna. Well, as you know, like a child, divine child, he was a prankster. He was a kind of a perfect lover, love unsullied by lust, of course. He was a king and a warrior, and he was a counselor. He was ultimately the divine being that is worshipped. Various roles. Swami Vivekananda says, yes, it's natural to build a kind of a mythology around a great person. We don't know how much is true and how much has been superimposed on that person. Everything has been taken and yes, it's superimposed on that. And as time rolls on, the stories keep on accumulating over and over. But Swami Vivekananda says it is given that he was a warrior and a king. Because in those days, it was that kings, the kingly class of people who were actively involved in the spreading of Brahma Jnana, knowledge of Brahman. What happens is there was a class of people called the Brahmins. They were very exclusive. No, this knowledge is not going to you. You're not competent. Simple as that. But the kings came, they took this knowledge and they spread it out to the people, to the general people. And here we find also in the Upanishads, some of the Upanishads, you find The kings are actively involved in preaching this. And Swami Vivekananda says, it means it was a practical philosophy. The kings in those days of absolute monarchy, when they were so busy, yet they had the time and the inclination to cultivate these thoughts and preach them. And when we come down to the Bhagavad Gita, well, what better scenario is there to preach this Vedanta philosophy? There on the battlefield, it's impossible. Why there? Sri Krishna was with Arjuna all through his life. He could have told him in the quieter moments, in the leisure moments when they are together. He didn't do that. He waited for that right time when the din of war is all around. And soldiers banging their, you can say, swords on the shield, and the sounds of mules and horses and fear there. And in that noise and din, here Sri Krishna is preaching the Bhagavad Gita. Calm, collected. And Arjuna, who had collapsed due to the Sidanthi Mamaghatrani, that is, my limbs and all are all kind of shaking and I'm fainting. He roused him up and delivered this song celestial, as Swami Prabhupada and Swami Krishna Ishwar has translated. That's really a song, celestial song. That song will rouse the sleeping soul. Sleeping soul? Yes. Our souls are yet sleeping. It needs to be awakened. When you have such a character, it's very difficult to place that character in a particular location. No, you need to locate a person, if you want to know that person, in time and space. Well, here is stretching almost to infinity. But we will go through some of the historical evidences and scriptural evidences for us to locate this character. What he was like, well, I'm not going to tell you about it, because our Nirakanaranda thankfully stole away all the thunder. So beautiful songs. So if you want to know what he was like personally, that's what. You can go through this. I think most of you have gone through it. So the character, yes, it's kind of very strange that the oldest, like I said, oldest epic is the Mahabharata, and later in the appendix called Hari Vangsha, we find his life described. The first, you can say, indications of there was a person, a warrior, a king who exerted tremendous power over all the other kings. You know what happens is Mathura and Vrindavan, these are two places associated with Sri Krishna. Mathura is where he was born, and then he was taken to Vrindavan because there was a tyrant king. You know about how there was a kind of a slaughter of the innocents in Judea when Christ was born. Something like this happened when Sri Krishna was born. The king comes out, he said, that guy is going to topple me. And so kill every child, newborn, and who is a couple of months old. So there was a kind of a bloodbath. So his birth itself heralded a kind of a bloodbath. So he was smuggled out from the prison where his parents were in and taken to Vrindavan. In 321, before Common Era, there was an ambassador and an ethnographer called Megasthenes. He was the, you can say, ambassador of Seleucus Nicator I. They were Greek. They were the Greek kingdom. You know, Alexander had come to India, and he had defeated a small king. And his generals told him, you don't need to go for it. There will be no Alexander the Great. There might be Alexander. You'll be finished off. So there Alexander's soldiers saw the soldiers of the opposing army carrying a kind of a placard. What's that? It was Heracles. What's Heracles? Later on it was found that it was Harikulesha, which was another name for Krishna. They used to carry placards. And as we know, when this ambassador came to the court of Chandragupta Maurya, that he was the emperor there. And so he wrote a book which is lost. It's called Indica. And his quotes, quoted by other Roman authors. He's saying, Heracles, that is Harikulesha, the Krishna, was worshipped by the Surasenas, in the land of the two great cities called Mathura, now which is Mathura, and Kleshtabora, Krishnapura. So there was a very popular Bhagavata sect. Bhagavata sect means the worshippers of Bhagavan. Later on, this came in a kind of a scripture form called a Bhagavatam. That's right. Well, we may dispute, you can pin a kind of a date now. But it's thousands of years after. And we know that there was a tremendous war in Southern California. There's an old Swami called Shiva, Swami Atmatattva. Some of you probably. He comes and tells me, there was a civil war in it. Yes, I know. Before coming here to the US, I had kind of gone through, not very detailed way, but the history of the US, because they might ask me these questions and I might flop. So he keeps on telling me about the civil war, how many soldiers died, how much this, that, and then one time I told him, this is nothing. Your civil war is baby's play. We had a civil war. When was that? The Mahabharata war. It was a civil war. It was a fight between two sets of brothers, two cousins, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. And the whole of this subcontinent was involved. 600,000 people were killed in the American Civil War. There, millions of people were killed. It was destruction on a massive scale. And India has never forgotten that. And after that, even today, India has never gone out as an aggressor. Never. And it will never go. We have learnt a lesson. Aggression doesn't pay. We've seen it with So this is always there in the mental horizon of people in India. There. So if we can date that civil war, well, you can find out, the Krishna was there. You can more or less find out, this is the time when he was there. But the problem comes here. The oral histories are so sometimes conflicting. There is one date, however, by Aryabhatta. Aryabhatta was an astronomer and a mathematician, one of the greatest. All this mathematics that we know now, algebra, algorithms, were nothing but Arab traders took it from here, India, and it developed it a little, and that it became. So he was the original, along with the Babylonians, of course, Babylonian, the Egyptian. He was the one who really developed mathematics in India. So, and since he was the astronomer, he pinned the date of the start of the Kali Yuga. That is, when Arjuna's grandson ascended the throne, the Kali Yuga began. Kali Yuga, what's Kali Yuga? That's the last stage of, we can say, development. It's called the Golden Age, Satya Yuga, and you have the Dwapara and the Treta and the Kali. It's not the last. Everything moves in a circle, you know. After this Kali, we'll come back down to Satya Yuga. Keeps on and on and on. And 12 times it repeats this, and it runs to millions of years. This will run to around 312 million years. We think in big terms. So again, the wheel will turn, and then there will come a small period of destruction, and again there will be a revival. In India, we solved the problem of what did God do on the first day, or the second day, or the third day. No. If God is eternal, creation has to be eternal. You cannot have a God who's sleeping while everybody is gone off. No. Creation and creator are two parallel lines running. Creation goes through the process of manifestation, evolution, and involution. The whole of the tree arises from that seed. Yes, the whole tree, that tree, yeah, tiny seed. So the whole universe emerges and goes back in a seed form. And these are the cycles continuously. So, to get back to the Kali Yuga, so the age of Kali, the age of iron, this iron age rather. And these divisions are also made by the Greeks and the Alexandrian Greeks, of course. So we have Aryabhatta saying it was 3,102 years before Common Era, the start of the Kali Yuga. Well, some later astronomers and mathematicians said, not so early. Wait, that's too big, too long a period, ancient period. So they say it's 2,449 before Common Era. Well, this too is, and here we have a very great mathematician called Vriddha Kalhana. And he was the one who said, this is kind of a moderate age, 2,499, wow, before Common Era, yeah. But you must understand that one thing is certain, it's Krishna was before the rise of the Buddha. When did Buddha arise? When was Buddha born? Yeah, something around the 6th to the 5th century before Common Era. So clearly, this character is pre-Buddhistic. There was, of course, all these divisions of Buddhism and all this, they weren't there. It was a kind of a reform movement within the mother church. Like you had a reform movement of Christianity within the Judaic, you can say, church, amongst the Jews. So Varahamira is another astrologer and sage who says, 2,400 or 2,450. But all these things have been completely repudiated by modern scholarship. They want facts and they want information. This data, why exactly? So it's now agreed by modern scholarship that it is 1,400 before Common Era. So 1,400 before Christ was born, there was this massive civil war called the Mahabharata. Okay? And why Mahabharata? Maha is great. Bharata is the land. The land. In our constitution, we have India. That is Bharata. What's Bharata? Comes from the verb bha. Bha means to shine. So that's what India has been doing for these thousands of years, shining its spiritual light. And so they say it's 1,400 before Common. this is modern scholarship. And they say, okay, and they also agree this Yadava hero, that's Sri Krishna, the child Gopala, which we sang right now, and the later counselor and the warrior and the hero are the same guy. So here we are. So they have more or less agreed that there was an evolution in that character's, you can say, manifestation. And the iconography and the literature all kind of portrays him like this. And that's the reason why we have songs and we have dances, we have poetry, we have everything connected with each and every stage of this Sri Krishna's life. And why shouldn't it be? Because when God incarnates, he behaves exactly like us, exactly. But the tremendous power that he brings makes him very distinct. You see certain aspects, certain powers that are really on a kind of a huge magnitude. And then you wonder, is this a person? Or is some divine incarnation or divinity? This can't be human. And yet, that's a contradiction in their lives. Whether the person is divine or human. And that was what you can say on where the Christian theology is concerned, whether Christ is divine or human, or how much of divinity is there in this? How much? Is he a human being? Well, he isn't a human being. So in India, we solved all that problem because we don't have one out there. We have plenty of. We don't have one God. We have millions of gods. Why is it? And we don't have one Vedas. We have plenty of Vedas. We don't have one temple, plenty of temples. You have one place, why do you stick to one life of yours? We have plenty of lives also. There we are. So the more the merrier, as they say. So the first solid reference found in the Vedic literature is in the Chandogya Upanishad, one of the early Upanishads, which is dated by modern scholarship at around 8th century before Common Era. And there is mentioned that Krishnaya Devaki Putra, that is the word, Krishna, the son of Devaki, he goes to a teacher called Ghora, who was of the lineage of the Angiras. Angiras were the lineage was an old Vedic, you can say, sacrificial priest, the Angirasas. So there is, even Max Muller, he makes a pertinent say, this was the starting point of all this Krishna lore and the later tales we hear about Krishna. But of course, we know we don't have to take the date seriously, but Chandogya Upanishad is quite early because we still find remnants of the old ritualistic section of the Vedas still attached to it. And then, of course, the speculative side takes over. So it means these two Upanishads, the Chandogya and the Brihadaranyaka, they're quite ancient because of the rituals. Then we have, in the Bhagavad Gita itself, Sri Krishna says, Vrishninam Vasudevosmi. Among the Vrishnis, the class of gods, I am Vasudeva. And this Vrishni class of rather clan, it was a clan. They were ancient worshippers, and that is also mentioned in Vedic literature called the Shatapatha Brahmana and Aitreya Brahmana. These are the two old sections of the Vedas. So there also the Vrishnis are mentioned. Then when we were young, we were trying to study the Vedas, kind of terrible in the sense of It's so difficult because it's not classical Sanskrit. The classical Sanskrit comes with the Mahabharata. Sanskrit means Samskrita, that which has been polished, that which is cleansed. That is the root of all the Indo-European group of languages. Do you know how many group of languages are there in the Indo-European group branch? 440 languages have sprung from this ancient branch of language. Yes. Oh, you are speaking in English. Yeah. Somebody said, hey, why do you speak in English? Well, that also has sprung from Sanskrit. Yeah, that's a kind of a mighty people speaking, mighty in the sense not cultured. They kept on speaking and spreading this language. So you have almost all the words, Sanskrit words, you can find cognates in the Hindi, in the English, or the French, or the Latin, or the German, or the Lithuanian, all over. This is remarkable, apart from the Indian languages, of course. We won't go into that. That will deflect us from the main topic. So, the Vedas are Vedic language. It is pre-Sanskritic language. And there was, to help people study, there was a book called Nirukta by Yashka. And that was 6th century, before Common Era, of course. Everything is now before Common Era. So he explained what these particular terms meant in modern language. That is it. So there also he mentions about Sri Krishna. We also have one of the, you can say, another place where you can break your head, the grammar of Panini. It's so mathematical. It's superb. The structure has been copied all over, in a lesser or more degree. I remember when we were studying French, we were saying, oh, yeah, this. But then this declension is like Sanskrit. Yes. Je suis, toi, il a, elle a, nous sommes. Oh, this. Yes. Latin, of course, was there, the declension was taken. And we find this Panini, it's called the Ashtadhyayi, 8 chapters. Tremendous, tremendous. He's written the whole language in a form of aphorisms. And these aphorisms, how did he get it? Well, he heard Shiva playing his tabor, his damru. And he heard that sound and he noted it down. And from that came the whole of this Sanskrit language. Panini also mentions Sri Krishna. There is a great commentary called the Mahabhashya on these Panini Sutras by Patanjali. This is not translated in English, not yet. We don't get people with enough scholarship to translate. But it has been translated into French. These French scholars, 3 centuries ago, Duperon, all these things, they translated into French. It's a huge. There also, and these all are 5, 6 or 7th century before Common Era. So you have Sri Krishna's, his stories, all these things have been trickling down in all these traditions, philosophical, Vedic, non-Vedic, because we also have the Buddhist and the Jain scriptures mentioning him. So even the non-Vedic traditions also speak of him. So much for history and so much for textual references, because we need to put this Sri Krishna. He's not a mythic figure, not a mythic. He was a real person. His life has been enumerated in very great detail in the Vishnu Purana and the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses. The language is modern. They say it's around 10th, 9th, 10th century, Common Era. But these stories, like I said, they were old stories that had been coming down and then putting down. So there they speak about his life in details, where he was born and all the pranks that he used to play. Why? Why put all these things? Why should God be like this? There's always a child in all of us. There was a long time back, there was a book, I'm okay, you're okay. I forget the name of the author, a great psychologist. So he mentions, there's a child in everyone. And God, when God descends, the word avatar means, avatar is to descend, avatarana. From where? From heaven? No! We don't have such heavens. That is, that divinity congeals and becomes manifest. Where is that divinity then? That divinity is in each and every heart. That divinity issues forth and, as it were, descends and plays that role of a God, a loving child. And then when we read all these antics, we're delighted. Oh, God can be like this. God can be funny. And that's what the idea is. These songs and the dances and all makes religion palatable, enjoyable. Religion should be enjoyable. Swami Vivekananda says, when you have a long face, that's not religion. It may be something else, maybe dyspepsia or something like that. And when you have a long face, please don't go out. Don't carry that disease with you out. Religion should be joyous. It should be fun and laughter and dance and song. And that's what you find in Sri Krishna. Like, don't weep. Please. That's not religion. When your heart becomes pure, you will find that same Lord eternally sporting with you. Your life will be connected to that divine sport. You will find that there was God with me all along. All along he was there, he or she. We like to use the word she, but since it is Sri Krishna Jayanti, I'm using the word he. Okay? No offense meant. You will find your life as a kind of a part of a divine play. And that's what I liked about Chetananji's title of the book. Not a great master. Oh, the great master with a rod in his hand. A divine play. And we are all parts of that divine play. The play of Sri Krishna is on and on and on. It is eternal. So here we have this character which is being idealized by children, by boys, by girls, by grown-ups, by all types of people. Every type of, that person is a sinner. Please come in. Why should that person be called a sinner? No, you also come in. And he is the ideal for everyone. Everyone. Old people, heroes, non-heroes. So, the very fact that this can happen means he had some universal characteristics that we see, that we can relate to, that everyone can relate to. That was a kind of a harmonious character. He was a perfect householder, a perfect married man, and a perfect sannyasin. Yes, without any kind of attachments anywhere. And we have him, as we know, he was a great lover of humanity. He had the most tremendous power of rajas. Rajas is that kind of activity. And yet he had tremendous control over. So when you see this picture, it's like there in the din of war, when you're easily distracted. We get distracted with just a car passing probably. Oh, what happened? The car passed. But here he is sitting down and he's, as I say, he's holding the restive horses. And the horses are frightened or they're willing to get go. He's holding them. There's not a strain on his face. His face is calm, holding them, using the tremendous physical force, and yet delivering the highest philosophical truths which has ever been spoken of. Yes, these are the highest truths that were ever spoken of and made practical. This is, he knew, he was aware of the battlefield, and he was a commander, and he was, you can say, hyper aware of everything, all the opposing enemies, what their plans are and how they're going to attack. You know, have the battle formations, you know, like the old days. We don't have those battle formations now. But then it was there. So he knew all the battle formations. He knew who's going to attack when, and because Bhishma had said, I'm going to kill 10,000 soldiers every day. And the battle used to begin on sun up and end sundown. Okay. Why? Evening you need to pray, you know? You have to sit down and meditate. They took this thing seriously. And here he is, speaking the highest truth. It reminds me of Swami Vivekananda. Once the teacher pulled him up, saying, you are the one who's making a nuisance out there, talking out there. Tell me what I was teaching. And Swami Vivekananda, a child, he kept on repeated verbatim what the teacher thought. But weren't you talking out there behind? Later on he said, I can divide my mind into two parts. I can be active, talking, being mischievous, and at the same time listening to what the teacher is saying. Wow, that's tremendous. We have one mind that's thoroughly fragmented. Yeah, because we have multiple personalities. When we come to this temple, we are like saints. We go out there, road rage. Ah! And then with my spouse, shout. And in the office, I'm so docile. Or if I'm the boss, all these are multiple personalities. We go through life with all these things. Yes, we do. But we are under stress. All the mental stress and anxiety and depression, all these things are because we have not been able to harmonize our own sub-personalities. Well, here you have Sri Krishna. There was one guy who was saying, your God, he married 16,000 damsels. Yeah, only our God can do that. He's saying, but do you know our God can also do something more? He became 16,000. You forget that. And Narada was a little surprised. Hey, I see in this house, Sri Krishna is there with this wife. Then he goes there, he's here also. Kind of, he had subdivided himself into 16,000 parts. Yeah, so here we have a person who has completely integrated himself. And that is what we need to learn. When we talk about philosophy or religion, India has spent its maximum energy on that in that field. And that's why there's so much diversity, huge diversity. To bring all these different streams of thought and harmonize them bespeaks of a mind that could embrace each and every divergent view on religion. It is a view, it might not be helpful to you, but it might be helpful to someone. Religion is always a kind of a growing up, a travel, an evolution. When you were young, you had thoughts and ideals which you today dismiss it as juvenile. There are people who need old, archaic, simple forms of worship. So that's why Swami Vivekananda said, from the lowest fetishism to the highest absolutism are so many attempts of the tottering soul to reach perfection. No stage of religious growth, whether it's shamanism or totemism, or you can fetishism, of course, animism, nothing is wrong. These are the soul's attempts to transcend itself. If we look at the whole religious history of India and whole religious history of the world, you find other religions have done away with their past. Kind of, silly things and embarrassing things that our gods did and all these things. No. Everything is a travel. And what Sri Krishna did was harmonized each and every stage in man's, humanity's journey towards truth. And that's what we get in the Bhagavad Gita. Even the Karma Kanda, which you don't need to do that, those rituals and all. But here, he brings them all in. And threads a kind of them into a beautiful garland. Wonderful. We had just now, speaking of Namaste Vyasa Vishala Buddhi, the Vyasa of great intellect. Vyasa is, in a way, Krishna. Vyasa, Krishna is black. Vyasa was black. So, can you imagine that person only who can go through every stage of spiritual growth of humanity can harmonize. He can see where exactly all the things should be placed. There's no condemnation, no criticism. These iconoclasts have been busy with this world and they've made world a hideous hell. Religion has been the fountainhead of everything noble. It has been the basis of our civilizations. Every civilization, every culture has a religion. It has civilized the brute in us. Yet at the same time, it has brought such dissension and such tears and pains and violence that modern people are disgusted with this religion. My religion is true, yours is wrong. Let's decide it with a free fight. Why? Can't you see the other viewpoint? Can't you see that that person also may be wrong, but he's traveling up? And we have this Sri Ramakrishna, one time, he scolded the recorder of the gospel, saying that's a problem with you all, Calcutta people, bringing light onto others. Bring light onto yourself first. Suppose there's an error in the worship, so what? The Lord who is sitting within you will do the correction. Suppose the person takes a wrong route to a pilgrim center called Puri. He will ask her, what's the direction to the Puri? And then somebody will correct that and say, you go this way. You don't have to bother so much about what these people are worshipping. Oh, it's satanic. There's nothing satanic. Of course, we don't have Satan. We've shed that load of burden. So here we have in the Bhagavad Gita a kind of a string of beautiful garlands. In the Upanishads, we have various experiences. The highest experience is called the Brahma Nirvana or the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And rest, everything, that's the highest experience. And below that experience, there are various experiences found in the Upanishads and spiritual literature. And Sri Krishna, amazingly, he harmonized all those experiences. Externally, the external form of religion is rituals, all these things, mythology. He harmonized there, and then harmonized the spiritual experiences, which is extremely, extremely difficult and rare that we can. So we have this great harmonizer who has come, who has done things for, leveled the ground for everyone. All of you can worship according to your capacity, according to your ideal. Because in India, we have this idea of superimposition. You will find people worshipping a stone. Oh, you are the infinite. You are eternal. They don't mean that stone there. They know very well that stone cannot be eternal and omniscient and omnipresent. No. They superimpose the ideas of God on that for the time being. So, the Hindus are idolaters. No, we are not. We have many gods. No, we have actually one God. There's one God. And everyone are just manifestations of that. We superimpose. And naturally, when we tend to do things, when we look out at the world, we superimpose our ideas of culture and value system on others. Oh, I like this, I don't like that. So this is superimposition on a large scale. Sri Krishna did that. Can you see the extent of his mind? Vast. That mind could understand all other minds, all other ideals. Now, time passes and Sri Krishna, as I said, has been with the spiritual heritage for thousands of years. In the 19th century, it was again that madhouse. People, they want liberation. That's the core of your religious beliefs. You want salvation, or you want liberation, you want freedom. Remember this, that's a core religious belief. You must have. And how you do it? Well, it's left to you. But in other religions, no, this is the way. This is the only way. So you limit your own expression of freedom and salvation. In time, what happens in India, we had numerous sects that arose, the karma yogis and the jnana yogis and the bhakti yogis, and all the time. And you go 20 miles from a starting point of religion, of a particular sect, of a particular saint, and that sect has already become diversified, branched off into multiple subsects. So India was full of these subsects. They forgot the original message of moksha, freedom. And they said, this sect, my sect is right. So they broke up that one Sanatana Dharma, one eternal religion, into fragments. Again, it was time for that harmony to come. And this came in the form of Sri Ramakrishna. That's why in the hymn chanting, opening chant, I say, Soyam Jata Pratita Purusha Ramakrishna Svidam. That very old soul has now come as Ramakrishna. And he did exactly what Sri Krishna had done thousands of years ago. How do we know Sri Krishna ever existed? Sorry. How do you know? Well, it's easy. I give you a long list of historical and textual references. Well, that's not necessary. You can see Sri Krishna in a spiritual vision. Sri Ramakrishna, I saw. Yeah, there he is. And this is the way of spiritual growth. Sri Ramakrishna, he never harmonized things on the ritual level. No. On the ritualistic level, you can't harmonize. One might worship Shiva, another might worship Christ, another might worship Durga. Each deity has specific mantras and specific rituals. You cannot say everything should be one. No, don't be silly. We understand human life is diverse. Unity in variety is the plan of creation. There is variety. No two similar people are there, or no similar things are there. Nature is very stingy. She'll destroy one and retain one. Why should you waste extra energy and time making two things similar? No, they're different. So this diversity is there, and we must celebrate this diversity. There should be a diversity in worship also. Every god should be worshipped in a particular way. If you put the Baal leaf for Shiva, Shiva likes Baal. You cannot take that and worship Vishnu, no. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna saw, he went to, one Narayana was there. He mentally offered a Baal leaf, kind of Bilwa leaf. And the deity within pushed it away. Then he worshipped him with Tulsi leaf, basil leaf, and accepted it. So, harmony will never be found on the level of rituals. It will never be found on the level of mythology. Each religion has its own mythology, and it should. It makes the place interesting. It can never be on the level of doctrines. Everyone has his own doctrines. Yes, good. For where can this harmony ever come? It can come on the level of spiritual experiences. There is something called an experience. Every sect, every religion, every doctrine is the outcome of an experience and expression. If you remember these two things, there's an experience, and that experience has to be expressed in language, in culture, in time, in terms of time and place and persons. So this is experience. So you can have a harmony on the level of spirituality, and that is what Ramakrishna did. And then he declared, Jatamot Tatapot, so many paths are so many ways to divine. So many opinions. You have an opinion, in the sense, not that opinion, or hey, that guy has got attitude. Not like that. I'm talking in spiritual terms. Suppose I want to worship my God who is a dancer. You can take Nataraja and dance. You can dance with him also. And we have devotees dancing. There was one great devotee, MacLeod, Josephine MacLeod, Swami Vivekananda. One day, one Swami, he saw her dancing in front of Swami Vivekananda's picture. And then when she became aware that she's being watched, don't tell anybody. But he did tell, so we know. She's lifting her skirt a little and she's dancing. So I'm entertaining him. He's my friend. So you're a friend. There you are. So God can be experienced through those old expressions. So on the level of spiritual experiences, it's all one. Sri Ramakrishna says, all jackals howl alike in the dark. That is, all mystics speak the same language. And that's what we can come to in harmony. There are no many gods, there's one God. And the expressions are multiple. And if we can understand this, then it becomes easy to understand the whole spiritual journey of humanity. In fact, humanity's journey is a journey of spirituality. Do you think 400 years ago this country was like this? No, it wasn't like this. Do you think 400 years after the country will be like this? No. Why should you say, this is mine, I'm not going to change? No. Change. Grow. That's the idea of spirituality. And so Sri Ramakrishna did that harmony there on the level. And he came as that same God worshipped in all religions. If we can understand that, then we can understand ourselves. Because we are basically spiritual beings. We're human beings? No. We are all human beings? No. We are spiritual beings. And we have for thousands of years understood spirituality. It's not that 10,000 years ago we started becoming spiritual, we're writing books. No. For 100,000 years we've been evolving, discarding ideas, taking new ones, discarding this, and gradually we have evolved. The whole history of our physical evolution is in your genes, in your DNA. You are not 10,000 years old. Your whole history, not only the whole history, the whole of our human evolution and subhuman evolution of 4 billion years is written in your genes. You cannot deny yourself. Here we are. I am the result of the infinite past stacked on me, Swami Vivekananda says. Yeah, it's there then. Why do you deny this? The very fact that you are here, your ancestors survived many predators. And there we are. All those struggles have been written down. And similarly, there's another level of memory called the karmic memory. Everything that we have done, we've laid down over and over again. Another layer. We are the result of that. Yes? Yes, there's another thread which runs through all these things. That is spirituality. We are spiritual people. We are souls. And that's what religion is. Take the brute, make that brute into a human being, and make from that human being, make that human being into a God. This is the goal of human life, to become a God. Me, God? Yes, you, God. That's the work of the Bhagavad Gita, the world scriptures. That's the message of Sri Krishna, who, as you know, in this age had come as Ramakrishna. He says, he who was Rama, he who was Krishna, is now come in this body as Ramakrishna. So that old story is once again being repeated. Why? Because we are old souls. There's nothing new in this universe. You know, this whole universe is a kind of recycled material. I like this, every way. Recyclables. Recycle, please. Recycle. Where the whole universe has been recycling itself. And we are all old bodies. In fact, not only bodies. When you ask, how old are you? I'm 30, 40, 50. No. You are 13.7 billion years. You are the age of the universe. That is what you are. How old you are? This is what I am. So we are all old, ancient, yet young. And what is our goal? Our goal is spirituality. To realize our own nature. As Sri Krishna says, Sutre Maniganayu, all these things are like pearls, which I am the thread which runs through all these pearls. If you can catch that thread running through you and through the whole humanity, your spirituality will awaken, and you will awaken others. Yes, it's a kind of a domino effect. Don't weep and cry and pray. I'm helpless, I'm useless, I'm hopeless. Don't do that. I'll end here because I've taken a little more time than usual. I once again thank you all for coming here, and especially thank Nishpapananda ji, Nirakarananda ji, and of course Swami Chetanananda ji. He who called me and told me, you got to come here. I said, yeah, I don't mind. And there I am, in the place I dreamt, and the place I thought not possible. In that very place. Yeah. Thank you all. Namaste.